Digi, the country's third largest telco by subscribers, is going through an interesting time. As the transition from voice to data continues, how will this impact earnings, plans for its spectrum, and the price of its services? CEO Albern Murty gives us the lowdown. 2017 was a tough year. You know, it doesn't seem that it's going to get any easier. And I'm basing this off your last 3Q numbers weren't great. But were you actually prepared for that when you knew that quarter wasn't going to be great?
Yeah. If you look at 2017 as a whole, I think 2017 was a year that we've already sort of known that we had to do a couple of things, right? We had to transform our business, which was predominantly coming from prepaid, going into postpaid. We started the postpaid journey in 2016. And yes, there was competition, and yes, it was intense. But I think if you look at the opportunities that we had both on data growth and on postpaid growth, I think it's been actually a very good year where we've been able to change the customer mix and also focus on postpaid. And postpaid growth in 2017, you had double-digit growth on both postpaid and internet. So if you look at Q3 numbers, I think we were actually very pleasantly surprised because we had a shift from just looking at pure revenue growth into really looking at profitable margins. And 2017, as of Q3, took us to about 46% EBITDA margins, which was we were very happy with.
Okay.
Challenges remain, and I think the challenge is around the prepaid area. And while the postpaid internet growth is very good, we also expect the prepaid to plateau out and to sort of improve over the next 1 to 2 years.
I always think that when you talk about this transition and change, there always is that little teething period. There's going to be that little bit of adjustment. I mean, how long do you see your adjustment? Because Digi's always been known very much as the prepaid kings. So how long does that adjustment period actually expected to take?
You mentioned prepaid kings, and I think prepaid kings position was important because these are your customers that are going to move with you into a postpaid market. And the reason why we moved into postpaid is that if you look at trends, again, you only provide consumer trends, and that's what triggers you to take marketing positions going forward. Consumers were shifting into more subscription-based, both from trends, from usage, from services, and we saw an opportunity to make sure that while we push data and network, we have now a chance to really move along with these customers that are maturing in terms of usage. People needed more data, more quota, and the willingness to move onto a commitment plans and postpaid plans was there.
Okay.
Started back 15, 16, you could see us starting to build the momentum. Network followed. We have a great opportunity now with 900 megahertz in July this year, so that actually gave us a boost. We never had low band spectrum. So everything sort of came to place, and it made sense for us to do that shift. Shifting though, as you say, is not easy. And I think we consciously actually look at our prepaid base and say, how much of this prepaid base do we want to move into the postpaid market and when? So we actually have a base management that we look at. And then it's also growth that we get now from the market on postpaid. Now we are fastest growing on postpaid. And the opportunity on enterprise SME is also something that's very exciting for us.
I noticed that you still continue to give dividends. That's still your policy. Any changes to your policy, any planned changes to your policy if the numbers do not meet up to what you think it's going to be?
No, I think what we have guided on the dividend policy will remain as of now, which is the minimum 80% payout will still remain. I think our focus is still to make sure that the growth that we get now, both on data, internet and postpaid, actually gives us those margins that we need. And I think that's where the focus is.
You touched, of course, on spectrum. The big thing that's going to come up in 2018 is the spectrum auction. The beauty contest is actually going on. What stage is it at?
I think the 700, you're referring to 700 thing that's out now. We are in that process. So I think, let me just take one step back and say that, first of all, I think the 900, 1800 refarming that was done has given an opportunity both for operators to actually move in, get spectrum for a commercial value, and actually now deploy a network based on 900, 1800, 2100, 2600. So our spectrum portfolio is actually very strong. Now with 700 coming out, and there's an opportunity for us to actively participate in that. Our intention is to do that. And that spectrum is valuable for both LTE and future technologies within that LTE space to come.
What can you do with the additional spectrum that will add to the customers? Because at the moment, everybody's giving data and everybody's giving a lot of data. So I will not sniff at more spectrum, but I'm wondering at one point, what can you do with it that will help?
Low band spectrum, you know this, right? Low band spectrum gives you coverage and gives you extra strength to cover in building.
Yeah, penetration.
Yeah, exactly. So 700,
900,
those are super critical for broadband and for LTE going forward. What you will have is a couple of options. You will have, when you have spectrum, you can either do speeds or you can do coverage. And what we have focused on a 900, and you can see what we did on 900, was we used 900 to take 4G out to the market in a much wider coverage area, and we use 900 to get into infill areas, which is in building. 700 will be used in those areas as well, but 700 will give you room to cover and take 4G to secondary and rural markets. I think that's when you start getting broadband on mobile much better and much quicker. Digi's position on network has always been consistent.
Yeah.
We never talked about top speeds and you get this and that. What we've talked about is consistent internet experience. 700, 900, 1826, that whole combination of spectrum will allow us to keep that position in the market.